Free Lamar, justice for Jackson. Welcome to Miss Reps with Kanal and Adam. Lamar Jackson shared today via Twitter, as of March 2nd, he announced there that he requested a trade from the team. Lamar Jackson, someone who's shown good faith throughout the process, this whole contract process has been roughly 2 years, very professional, never, leaked anything publicly or badmouthed the team or, just never had any sort of issues off the field. Today was the day that kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. He came out and said as of March 2nd, he requested a trade. Adam, did you see this coming?
I mean, yeah, kind
Yeah.
of not fully. I want to say all of this coming out. Oh, I requested a trade back then, but you can tell something wasn't going right, I guess, because of course contract disputes are going to happen. So I just didn't know how bad it was going to get. Of course, everyone has their stories of what numbers were thrown around and this and that. But in that same tweet from Lamar that came out today, he did say like anything you've heard about me that's mostly mistrue, and I was not, wasn't represented by anybody. If everyone remembers the whole thing where he has like it was a fake like person representing him
Impersonating him
from,
or something like that,
but
right?
it
Or
was in
impersonating
France. It was in France or something like that. It was
was
weird.
a Nigerian prince.
Yeah, but just he, I don't know. That was just all a weird thing of like, who is this like person representing him? Which was funny if you actually follow Lamar on Twitter after that whole like shindig of like the fake representative. He actually came out and was like pushing a product like the portable gym or something like that. Like
Yeah, I
me
saw
and my
that.
oh, he says me and Kenny are dropping this new like thing, and because the guy's name was Kenny apparently.
Mm.
So who knows? Don't know. About what the heck Lamar's gonna do in this situation. But do you think? I mean, who do you think has all the leverage here?
Oh, that's a good question actually. So this is probably a good time to like talk about Lamar's tag situation. Or let's say first off, let's do a timeline, right? So
Yeah.
March 2nd, is when Lamar put his request in to be traded. March 7th, I believe, is when the Ravens extended a non-exclusive franchise tag. And because of that franchise tag, I think Lamar or the Ravens have all the leverage in this situation because Lamar can put in a requested trade,
Hmm.
but the Ravens themselves own the contractual rights to Lamar Jackson. So even if he wants to be traded, he's still kind of under contract with the Ravens until the Ravens decide otherwise. Um, so the non-exclusive franchise tag itself, what that means is because this is kind of like it doesn't happen often, so it's
Yeah.
good to discuss. So what it means is I like to think of it as kind of like a tendering a restricted free agent. Um, but on a much grander scale because obviously it's a franchise tag, and what that means is that um, if a team offers, if Jackson, what this allows Jackson to do, Lamar Jackson to do, it allows him to go out and talk to teams, try to negotiate a deal. And what this non-exclusive franchise tag allows the Ravens to do is either match it, and if they choose not to match it, the Ravens
Remember
get,
that 5 day period, by the way.
sorry, yeah, the 5 day period. They have
Hmm.
5 days. It's 5 days to match an offer, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. So they have 5 days to match an offer, and if they choose not to, then the signing team is obligated to send 2 first-round picks as compensation. And if you're under that kind of contractual obligation, first-round picks are a very powerful thing, right?
Yeah, depending on who it's coming from. I mean, I don't know. It's weird because if you remember when like Lamar Jackson was tendered, not tendered. Oh my gosh, when he was tagged on the seventh, a lot of teams instantly just said we're out. Like
Yeah,
literally a whole list of teams are just like, we're out.
it,
No, we're immediately out.
these are teams that very much need a quarterback.
Yeah, but I also call bullshit on
Yeah,
those teams saying that they're out because that was just at the time, and he's still available to like you can still talk to him even today. So that whole the BS about like, oh no, we're just out. That's it. We're not going to actually go after him. I'm like, you're stupid if you don't. But I
yeah.
mean, you can't even at least talk about it in like in the rooms or something like that before.
Just to say the 5 teams that, came out and said it was March 8th that these teams came out and said, "We're not interested in him," which just kinda smells of, like, some shady backroom shit going on. 'Cause for my perspective, my tinfoil theory, they're trying to deflate the market for Lamar Jackson to try to bring him under contract under a lower value than Lamar Jackson believes he's worth. But the 5 teams that came out and said that were Atlanta Falcons, Carolina Panthers, Miami Dolphins, Washington Commanders. and Las Vegas Raiders, who aside from the Dolphins and Raiders until I don't know
Hmm.
when Jimmy G signed. I mean, but we can pretty much say four of those teams very much need a quarterback. And one day after that, after he was tendered, they said, "Now we good."
Nah, we're good. We're all right. We don't need it. But I mean, that's BS, and that's just like at this point, you can. If I was them that said, we're good, I'm then gonna be like, okay, I know we said we're good, but you can tell Lamar doesn't want to be in Baltimore anymore.
Yeah, you feel for the guy because he hasn't done anything wrong throughout this process, right? If anything, he's been an extreme professional.
He
If
did not talk about his contract during the whole season. He literally said, "You know what?
we're focusing on
I'm
football.
just football. That's what y'all want. Y'all want me to just play football." Like, I know he wasn't really saying you want me to just play football, but it's really just catering to those just play football.
Mm.
And he did that. Didn't talk about it all season. Played, you know, played the best. I played the best that he can play for that particular season. I believe they got to that first round without first round of playoffs without him. You know, uh, but it is what it is on that part because his knee was out and stuff like that. But yeah, that's also I think that's also what contributed to let's hesitate a little bit on this contract here because you say you want I if my here's my thing, if Deshaun Watson can get a full contract that much out of the Browns, which let's just be frank here, he had all the allegations and all that type of stuff on him. He didn't even play for a whole season, and the Browns were just like, "We'll still pay him full." But then you have someone that's playing, and it's like,
And
"No, no,
a
no,
former
no."
MVP,
Former
still in his
MVP
prime.
at that, because like Deshaun Watson, I think went to did he even go to the playoffs at all in his Texans tenure?
If it was probably
One
very
and
early.
done. It was like a
Yeah.
one and done, if anything. So like, you didn't even get like. I'm sorry. I would rather have Lamar over Deshaun Watson as of right now. Even how he played,
Oh yeah.
especially with Deshaun, how both of these
The
two players
Ravens
played or lack of play anyway.
the Ravens have done nothing for Lamar in terms of like putting pieces around him to help him succeed. They might have had like the running game, before with like Mark Ingram and guys like Gus Edwards
Deep
and you know what?
threats. He gave them like they just kept throwing like the wide receiver two deep threats with him.
Yeah,
So like, hey, just throw the ball down the field. But it's like you don't really have that.
Mark Andrews, I guess you can say, but he didn't. They didn't actually get. They never. Usually, when you have an outstanding quarterback, the first thing like a team will do is go out and get him a premier wide receiver. Like Bengals spent the fourth. I think it was the fourth overall pick on Jamar Chase. Like Kyler Murray got DeAndre Hopkins. Those kind of moves happen.
I mean, they had Hollywood, right? Hollywood Brown at the
Yeah,
time, which I mean, there was something there, but like at the end of the day, it was a deep threat thing. Deep threats at the end of like the deep threat receivers will always have those muscle tears eventually, get them back and then they slow down and stuff like that. So you want that route runner initially, that DeAndre Hopkins, all of those type of receivers. I
Devonte
mean,
Adams. Those guys.
right.
There's plenty of them around the league. Devonte Adams was a guy that was available last offseason, and the Ravens chose not to do anything.
This is true. This is very true. So I mean, I don't know. I think they were trying to get that one or two Super Bowl wins and they didn't get it. So now it's like, well, shit, we are here. We got to pay this man. And do mind you that for everyone out there, the Ravens franchise has not really paid a quarterback since the Joe Flacco era, and so they're thinking like, oh, if we pay this again, it's just going to be
We're
the
screwed.
repeat.
So
Right.
yeah, I was gonna ask you about that. So Richard Sherman kind of came out and said something along the lines of, guys like Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes kind of ruined the kind of deal Lamar was looking for, because Lamar wants that fully guaranteed type of deal,
Hmm.
like Deshaun Watson, but Lamar or Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes kind of came out with these very flexible type of deals where they're playing it from a different perspective, let's say, than Lamar is paying it from, because they're different kind of quarterbacks. And Richard Sherman kind of came out and said that he thinks those guys are the reason why Lamar can't get the money that he's looking for. And the first thing I was thinking of was, yeah, you might be right. I would put Lamar Jackson, a healthy, completely healthy Lamar Jackson, in that same category because he's an MVP. You don't just get that for being a one and done type of player. I
Yeah.
would I would say the Ravens probably are more. They got PTSD from Joe Flacco, like you said.
Yeah, heavy PTSD. But I mean, I feel like personally that the Ravens, well, it's really the thing that like most people would like the armchair GMs are going to do, right? I want to have a very flexible deal that I think we've mentioned it before, like, take a lower deal and have them build around you and stuff like that. But like eventually a lot of players are starting to go for those guarantees now. They're getting smart as they should. please go after those guarantees. Don't care about what the teams are going to say, because if they don't want you, there's another team out there that wants you even more, and they'll even overpay for you, if you will. And now,
Yeah.
honestly, go for those guarantees. It's the reason why it's very hard is that like Lamar is like the second player besides Deshaun Watson, because it's funny how Deshaun Watson got through and the Browns just said, "Yep, we're going to do the thing."
Not
I
just
know
that,
every
gave up
franchise is
3
did.
first-round picks for him.
This is true, and they gave him a full contract.
Yeah,
So I don't understand why they can't do this for Lamar Jackson. And quarterbacks are only going to get more expensive down the way
yeah,
as they go along. Because like right now, Lamar Jackson would literally bump up the QB market once more. But then if teams are going to wait till Joe Burrow, Herbert, and all of them get their contracts, it's only going to get more expensive, but the
yeah.
cap is only going to go up from here.
That's true. So, like I said in the beginning, Lamar's been extremely professional. He's shown good faith throughout this whole process.
Yep.
He was, we don't want to make it sound like he's like a disgruntled employee type of thing. According to, I think, Adam Schefter, there were contract negotiations as early as last week. So we know that this
Hmm.
process has been ongoing. Maybe they didn't do it during the season, like you said, because we want to focus on the football. But
That's fine.
he they showed good faith, and that's what the franchise tag is usually used for, right? It's for
Hmm.
showing good faith, but I think that good faith is lost. But to kind of illustrate the numbers that are being thrown around, Adam Schefter and Chris Mortensen last September reported that Jackson turned down a deal. They didn't put the full numbers, or the period of time even, but
Hmm.
that Lamar Jackson turned down a deal that included 133 million guaranteed at signing, 175 million guaranteed for injury. So if he was hurt during the period of the
Hmm.
contract, and 200 million in total guarantees if he's on the roster on the fifth day of the 2026 league year. So you could imagine that it was somewhere in the ballpark of like a 5 year, maybe 200 to 250, or let's say $250 million
Right.
type of deal. That 200 million guaranteed if he was to play that full, the full period of that contract would have been second among all quarterbacks, at least as of right now.
That's if there wasn't any contract loopholes to get out, because there's a lot. That's the one thing you have to understand with these contracts. And
Converted to signing bonus, they just do some weird magic always.
yeah, and they find ways, like a team will find a way to get out of a contract some way, somehow. Like, especially like for instance, like the Garoppolo deal with the Raiders is really more, instead of like, what was it, like a 3 or 4 year deal, but it's actually like a 2 year or even a 1 year deal
Yeah.
if they really don't like it. So it's
Yeah.
one of those things where they were just basically just trying to have an out with Lamar Jackson. So at the end of the day, uh, yeah, we'll see what happens. They have time, but at the worst, you're just gonna have Lamar Jackson just not playing
Yeah, so I
this
wanted to
upcoming
ask you
season.
about that. So do you think he'll hold out?
I mean, is it like okay? So the only thing I need to know is for that franchise tag is even if you don't play, or do you still get this money, or is it like do you literally have to play to
That's
get
a good
that
question.
money?
So the amount of money he's set to earn is $32 million for this season, but I think you get paychecks for playing in a game. I think you get per game paychecks. So if he holds out, like who else? There was a player that held
Well, I
out
mean,
recently.
if he's there at the game, but he's a backup, I don't know if they can just take that money away. It's really just like you're paying me, because I think there was times when people got franchise tagged waived. This is when like these were more frequent like disputes back in the day,
Mhm.
and people still had to pay them that money. But that's why it's a contract dispute of pay me or trade me, which I hope he gets traded. But you know how that's going to be then, like with the Aaron Rodgers, like we want to get like 3 first round picks, maybe a player, you know,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
what
Did what
you saw what the Chicago Bears did. We want to do that.
Yeah, we want to do that. Did you see the Jets? What the Jets said about Aaron Rodgers and like what was it? You actually phrased it better than I
Oh, it
could.
was
The
they
GM
like
for what's his name? I can't remember. It's like Ballard, or might be a
it's
different guy actually, but
I
yeah,
don't
we could
have
just say the Jets GM.
yeah, the Jets GM pretty much was just saying that like, hey, not about like Lamar specifically, but he definitely said like we're just gonna take our time with Aaron Rodgers, but we're just out. We're out. We're still out for Lamar Jackson. By the way, we ain't touching him. And it's like, but
What
then I hope Aaron Rodgers is like, I'm gonna stay as a Packer.
just I don't even like Alan Lazard.
Just how you did Lamar like that, I don't like that. I'm staying here. Go Pack, go.
Go Pack, go. So what teams do you think are like obvious destinations? Because, if so there are two ways out, I think we can
Okay.
say maybe for Lamar Jackson. One
Hmm.
is I'm assuming there are two ways out. We still probably don't know the full extent. One is, he gets an offer from another team, Ravens
Mhm.
refuse to match. The other team signs them, sends 2 picks to Ravens. And that
Mhm.
there might be if there is no market for Lamar in that sense or with that level of, compensation, let's say,
Okay.
and Lamar has come out and said, "I'm sitting out for the next year," so Ravens are essentially gonna be paying him, they're not gonna be paying him probably the full 32 million, like you said. They'll probably deactivate him from the active roster and just kinda make him, sit on the side and pay him the minimum. Um, with that, they can probably force a trade that way, and, maybe they can somehow negotiate a lower than 2 first round picks way, but, that's
Yeah.
one other so there let's just assume that he's able to find a way out.
Mhm.
Who are out of those 2 ways, who are some of the teams you think are probably the most, likely destinations?
Lions, Falcons. Like I'm thinking of teams that can go all in after they acquire him. So like definitely like the Falcons could definitely go all
Even though they
in.
said they're not going in?
I don't believe
You
in
don't
any
believe
team.
that, yeah, I don't
That's
believe it
all.
either, man, you're right.
Any team that says they're not going to do something, some of those teams went around and actually did the thing that they said they were not going to do. So I'm going to say like the Lions is one
Uh-huh.
because that's like one of their question marks is on their quarterback. Can Jared Goff throw under pressure? Because that's one of his stats that basically hindered the Lions in this past season. So he needs to get better in that front. Or you can just get rid of Jared Goff with a trade of somewhere. You may not get much, but then you can then trade for Lamar Jackson, pay him, and have a souped up team. Panthers, well, they're at number one, so I think they're
I
just
think
gonna
they've
go the
already
route of
decided, yeah.
yeah, they've already decided. So I would think like again, so I'm thinking like the Falcons could go all in, if they got him, build around him. I think either like I mean
It's funny
Panthers
because
would have
like
been nice. Panthers would have been nice for him too, like with that
yeah,
offense. Oh no, the Colts. This is what
yeah.
Pat McAfee was even talking about. He's like, bro, the Colts, like with our team, you can run the ball. He's like, we got tight ends, crossing, like we can do the cross routes all day.
Pew, pew, pew,
Pew,
pew.
pew, pew. Like cross routes all day. I think that's like, some of the. My thing is, if you need a quarterback, you at least get a guaranteed quarterback out of Lamar. It's not like
Yeah,
it's
he's a
not like
tried
you're
and
just
true
gonna
talent. There's no question about it.
yeah. I just don't know why there isn't any teams going after him. But at the end of the day, if they're not going to go after him, it's just going to be a year where Lamar's going to be sitting on that bench or might not be at the games at all. If he's not at the games, I don't think he'll get paid. If he's at the games but refuses to play, so be it. I don't know how that's going to go, so we'll see because
Yeah,
it just happened today. But I think Lamar should just get out of Baltimore. His tweet pretty much sounded like, "Hey,
I'm
you're gonna
done.
see me like Baltimore, like he calls them the flock. Like you're gonna see me, just not here in Baltimore anymore. But you'll still be my fan base and stuff. So, and he's been really good to
Yeah,
that community as well. So
he's done nothing wrong in his perspective, and,
just play.
he's played to a good level, and, I think it kinda is telling of the Ravens organization. Like I said, there should be that good faith between Lamar Jackson and the Ravens organization, and if the Ravens are like, "We'll if you take a lower deal, we'll build around you," Lamar's probably thinking like, I've been doing that for 4 years or maybe 5. I think he probably had a 5th year option. I've been
Mhm.
doing that for, let's say, 5 years. And you guys ain't done much when it was extremely cheap. What makes you think what makes me think that I'm gonna get like a new, shiny toy wide receiver or brand new offensive line when you give me this new deal, right?
Yeah, I mean, I do know one team, that would actually do this 2 first round picks and then just go
Mhm.
the Rams.
Fuck them
If
picks.
if they had the picks, they don't have
Yeah,
any picks at the moment. It'll be all of these future first round picks just for another quarterback. But yeah, man, I don't know what they're gonna do, or I mean, there's not much they can do in this point. So it's really just up in the air, and maybe hopefully a team gives a sexy enough offer to the Baltimore Ravens, and they say, you know what, sure. But it was funny because I don't know if you saw the footage of John Harbaugh, like at literally
oh,
like
dude,
he
I
was at a
completely forgot
conference.
about that. He
Yeah, he was
found
at a
out at the press conference, right?
yeah, he was at the press conference, and before that tweet came out, he was actually, and literally that's why like the tweets that came out was like this literally happened at like the same time. Like John Harbaugh said, like
That had to be
we're gonna
that's
get something
planned.
done. He's like he's watching it. Okay, okay, tweet now, hurry,
Yeah.
hurry,
Hurry, hurry. Fly the jets.
Kenny, tweet, come on, bro. But
Kenny.
and he has like a um so yeah, John Harbaugh was basically just saying like, yeah, we're gonna get something done. We really want him to stay, and like you can tell Harbaugh actually like he loves like
He
Lamar
loves the kid.
Jackson. He supports him and stuff like that. It's just the whole organization, the front office is all one entity, right? You can't just go to the head coach and be like, well, head coach said yes, so it's going to go through. So when he said like, yeah, we're going to get something done, all of a sudden the tweet came out and they said, hey, you did you hear that Lamar requested to be? He's like, oh, we ain't gonna talk about that here. That's private, and you know what? That's the right move. Like, hey, some of this stuff is private conversation. There's nothing else to be said besides like we're trying to get him in. And I believe the CEO or the president of the Baltimore Ravens even came out and said, we are really trying to, to keep Lamar Jackson. We really love Lamar Jackson. We want to keep him and stuff like that. So it could just be like Lamar, why'd you do that to us, Lamar? It
Yeah,
could be something like that on there, and
this
who
shit ain't
knows?
happening.
Right. So, I mean, the only thing that we can do here is just wait to see. But I love chaos, so I hope a team actually just says, you know
Yeah.
what, fuck it, like fuck it. We've been losing, or like we have everything but a quarterback. Here's two first round picks.
Yeah, it's funny because like all the teams that I would think that he would want to go to have like picks in the top 10, and they're like if they were to extend an offer to him, they'd be giving up like Carolina. You said,
Hmm.
that's a team that would be fantastic with Lamar Jackson.
But you know
Texans.
what they're gonna do though. So they got the number one overall pick. They're not gonna
Yeah,
do
and that's the thing is that like, when you have that kind of it's basically a ransom, if if you have that ransom held on Lamar, you can't really get done, what you want to do because I think there was like this notion that any deal that a team puts out there that Ravens are going to match them anyway, so then no one bothered to try because there's this high price tag on him in terms of like picks. So it just kind of the deck was stacked against Lamar, it feels like, in this situation, and, we're just kinda seeing the situation play out.
I feel like we knew something was gonna go wrong because it was just like you said, we saw the signs, and even people were saying, I think like the biggest thing was like, hey, when's the last time the Ravens actually put out a very big like we want you to stay on this team for multi-year, basically QB deal, and it was Joe Flacco. So they are still like traumatized from that. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess they're just like, well, he's not Flacco. He's not elite, but he is Lamar Jackson.
Yeah,
But he's not Flacco.
he's not Flacco. Flacco really kind of screwed that up for him. That's probably the fair assumption,
I
but
feel like any quarterback that had to come in after Flacco was gonna get got by the Ravens
yeah,
regardless.
it was just a matter of who was gonna be there, right?
Yep, and it's Lamar. So
Yeah. So
what can you
thank
do?
yeah. So thanks for joining us here at Missed Reps. Again, my name's Kanal and this is Adam. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe button. We love seeing you guys watch and join on our comments, and we hope to catch you again next time.
Peace.